Hey there YouTube, Doc's Motorcycle Service. Rawr, 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 rawr. Welcome back to the shop. Today is July 31st in the real world. But if you're keeping up with the timeline, it's November 24th, 2021. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the roll-up door. We're going to talk about a heater, we're going to talk about the roll-up door. We're going to talk about some temporary power, and we're going to talk about getting the power turned on, and then actually getting the plans of what we wanted in here put on paper and submitted to the electrician for a quote. And we are going to go ahead and start looking at that right now. We ended up getting us a heater out here for the shop. We went with a kerosene electric heater. So at this point we still have the tarp over the roll down door, but it was on this date, that's right, it was on this date that we set the heater up for the guys that were coming out to put the roll down door in. Now I didn't get a lot of pictures of these guys because they showed up during the week and I could not get that day off. The guy called me the night before and was like, man, I'm coming out there anyway, you can have some power. And I was like, yeah. So we ran a power cord from the little shed, a little shop up here to it to be able to power the heater. I showed them how it worked, I showed them where the extra kerosene was, and I took off and came home, and there she was. It looked good. It was just a standard white door, and that's all I wanted. As I've said before, and I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, if you can do some stuff on your own, save you some money, because I think, don't hold me to this, I'd have to look at the receipt, but I think this garage door and install was like $1,200, and that's for a standard non-insulated white door. And what that means is, I'll show you here in a second, if you look at the interior of the roll down door in this picture, you will see that the panels you see here is the same piece that you see from outside, but they make insulated panels that are designed specific for these doors and will just stick into each of those 12 slots. Now the guy told me, he's like, I can put these up or you can put them up, but if you put them up, call me back out here so I can adjust the tension on the spring. Now, here's a little tech tip. A lot of people think that that motor raises that door. Your garage door motor, it raises the door, but it doesn't carry the full strength of the door. Those doors are heavy. They're absolutely heavy. You probably saw in the previous picture there that it was taking 2 guys to bring in a panel. Well, this is, I don't know, 2 foot tall and 12 foot wide, and it's quite heavy, YouTube. The springs are what raise the door. I think when the door is down, there is tension on the spring, so the motor actually holds it down. Then when you hit the button to open it, the motor starts raising the door, and the tension on the spring is what helps bring the door up. That's why you ever hear somebody saying my spring broke and the door hit the ground. That's right. They got 2 springs on them, and it takes 2 springs to raise that door. And if one breaks, the other one can't hold it, and buddy, she'll go straight to the ground. So, little tech tip there. Moving on up to November 27th. Here's a little tech tip I was telling you about, a little pro tip, alright? So you notice that the door here is now the same color as the trim is on the bottom half. Well, I asked the old boy when he came out here, I said, hey man, what's it take to paint this door? He's like, well, the door's made out of aluminum, and don't hold me to this, and I cannot find the paint can, but I'm pretty sure it was latex paint. He said, you just grab you a piece of this trim, take it down to one of the paint stores or the big box stores that mixes paint, and they can mix the paint to match the trim. And by God, they did. I had them, and The other side is latex is an outdoor paint, so it sticks to wood as well. So not only did we end up painting the door, or the roll down door, and I'll talk about that for a second. What I did here, looking at the picture, is I taped off the rubber seal on the bottom, and if I can zoom in, you'll see where I trimmed, I taped off the corners of the actual door jamb itself. And then what I did is I did not try to paint in between the edges, the grooves of the door panels themselves, but I just painted it. Now, he suggested using a roller. YouTube, I can't remember if I think I used a brush and a roller. I think I used a brush to get the edges, and then I used a roller to roll all of the level pieces, and then I took the roller and just kind of stuck it in the squares, the indented part of each square you see there that is tan. But the store we went to matched the paint perfectly. We got the bottom section done, and then I let that dry, and then I rolled it down to where I could reach the top portion of it, and I got that, and I let it dry. And I guess it was probably the next day or so, or either 2 days later, that we came back and I had done the little roll down door, and sure enough, there's what she looks like. I mean, looks pretty good. It matched up perfectly. Very happy with it. And on top of it, I got 2 gallons of paint for like 50 bucks. To have ordered that door in tan to match the building was probably going to add another 3 to 5 weeks of delivery time to it, and on top of that, it was going to be like an additional $1,000. So for maybe 5 hours of my time and labor and $50 in paint, I got a door that now matches the shop. January 9th, moving right along. Now you might say to yourself, how did you jump from November 29th up to January 9th? That's almost 2 months. You know, what was the delay? YouTube, we had the holidays. We had Thanksgiving. We had Christmas. We had deer season. And we had a delay in actually deciding how we wanted to put stuff out here. We've talked about it in previous videos that the number one thing that I've always found out from people who I've talked to about shops is, or the number 1 and 2 feedback I've gotten from people who built shops was, always build it bigger than you think you're going to need, or buy more than you think you're going to need, and put as many outlets in it as you can stand. Now, in the previous video, we talked about the outlets. The big slowdown in actually getting here to this date, and you'll notice in the picture, if you look down in the lower right hand corner, you can see a cord coming out of the outlet that power is fed to from the breaker panel and going to the refrigerator. And then you see another cord working its way over to the ladder, and then you'll see another cord working its way over to the ladder, then going up the ladder and plugging into the power supply for the roll down motor. And you'll notice that we put 4 temporary lights up. Now, YouTube, I want to talk about certain things right here real quick. Tech tip, pro tip, zip ties. Okay, since we really didn't know where everything was going to go in the shop, I really did not want to permanently attach any type of lights. I just didn't, man. You can call me what you want to, but I'm a weirdo when it comes to some stuff. I hate putting a hole in something and not putting something in it. It's like a waste of time. It just, it drove me bananas. We're not going to go into it here, but when we get to the video where we're putting up the exterior lights and having to cut holes all the way through the panels of this shop, it tore me apart on the inside, because I really wanted to make sure it was done right the first time, because I didn't want to come back and have to patch a hole. I didn't want a hole too big and have to put a god-awful amount of caulk around it. I just really wanted to make sure it was right. So if you can look close enough here, and I don't think you can, those 4 lights are held up by 2 chains each, and those chains are zip tied to that beam across the top underneath them. And it's a great thing because you use these zip ties, and I mean, go with stencil strength. Tensile strength is a determination of how strong something is, that it can be pulled by each end until it breaks. Well, these zip ties and these lights don't weigh nothing, but we zip tied them up there so we could slide them left and right in the building to where we had enough overlapping light. And we love these lights. I'll put a little link up here. These are the same lights that we bought for the old garage at the house that we moved out of. We loved them, and we had 4, and I was like, well, might as well use them. So what we were trying to figure out at this point was, is 4 lights enough for each bay, or do we need 3? We ended up going with 4 on each beam. And guess what? They're all still held up by zip ties. Because we still haven't figured out exactly where everything's going to be at. But it's a lot easier to go up there and unplug the light and then, you know, cut 2 zip ties and take the light down than it is to try to take 2 screws out of each light and move them where you want them to go. So at this point we got power on out there. We came across this little refrigerator to put out there, and it worked out great for what we wanted to do. Going back to your planning, again, we were delayed up until this point right here, because it's just now here in January 17th, I believe the date was, that we actually decided where we wanted everything in the shop, where we wanted the outlets at, where we wanted the switches at, where we wanted the exterior lights at, where we needed power supply for the lights. Remember, these 4 lights, the cool part about these lights were they daisy chained off each other. You plugged one into an outlet, a power supply, and then there was an outlet or an inlet on the end of that light for you to plug the next one into, and the next one into, and the next one into. So you could have one power supply, flip one switch, and all 4 lights come on. And here's a little tech tip about these particular lights. They have motion sensors on them. You can set them to be on all the time, or you can set them to come on only when they detect motion. And I would do a video for you on that, but I don't want to climb a ladder 12 times to put them on motion and then climb down it to set up a camera and walk under them so you can see what that looks like, and then have to climb the ladder 12 more times to put them all back into constant on when they have power. I love you, YouTube, but I ain't got many ladder climbs left in me. We're going to look at this picture here. This is the right wall diagram, and I mentioned before doing some graph paper so that you get an idea of how much you need. So we basically drew out a rectangle on this one. This is the right wall, and you can see that we put 24 foot across the bottom, and then we came up and we put in a P for a panel, and then we put 4 boxes and we put Q's in them. And then what we did in the upper left hand corner, if I can see this, is we basically said Q equals 110 times 3, and P somewhere on here, I think it says 48 inches off floor, and then the P for the panel. Now the cool part about that is I could send this to the electrician, which I did, along with 4 more that you'll see here in a minute, and he could tell that from the panel to the first Q to the second Q and to the third Q, how long that was, and then he wrote down a number of how much MC cable he needed to run from the panel to there. Then we went to the left wall, and we had Q equals 110 times 2. Basically what that meant was that we wanted 110 run to this this wall. We needed it in 2 outlets, but we changed it. We eventually went to 3, and then the S would equal a plug strip. Now, I'm sorry, this is the left wall. We were planning on 2 outlets and then a plug strip, because we wanted to be able to plug the neons into a plug strip and flip a switch as we walked into the shop to be able just to turn those on. What I found out after talking with the electrician is neons pull a lot of amperage, and I've got quite a few of them. So down the road, after we got to talking into this, we decided to go with 2 plug strips and 2 power sources with 2 breakers on them, so it would not trip the breaker or overheat the panel. And I think what we did was we still ran them off the same switch. The back wall, the wall that's behind me right now, we determined in the upper left hand corner, which is going to be about right here, which is where the bar is going to be at, is where we wanted another TV. And then if you look left to right, you'll see 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, and 1. And then Q1 equals 110 times 5. Q2 equals 220 by 2. And then if you can see the letter C equals compressor, that's where the compressor hookup was going to be in the wall to run the compressor that we were going to put outside. And spoiler alert, we didn't go with an outside compressor. As I've said before, this stuff costs money, and I am not a rich man. We felt like an outdoor compressor would be overkill, so we decided against it, but we went ahead and put the compressor hook up there, so if we ever change our mind down the road. I mean, YouTube, I'm not bragging or anything. I try to be a very humble person, but when this thing is done, you could come in here and take this wood off the front wall and probably put in another roll-up door, and you could run a business out of this thing working on cars or pickup trucks or motorcycles or whatever. And if that ever happens, maybe after I retire and I want to do something like that and we need a big compressor outside, then that's an option. So we wanted that all done at one time, and of course we put that we wanted them all 48 inches off the floor. Now you may say to yourself, why did you want them 48 inches off the floor? Well, in the planning stages for the wall on this end, this is the end where the roll down door is, we had planned on repurposing some kitchen cabinets there as a countertop and underneath storage. And most every one of those measured up to, I think the top was 38 inches, which was standard. Most of them had a backsplash on them of about 4 inches. And I wanted to make sure that the outlets were far enough above those cabinets that we would be able to plug stuff into and the cords not be in the way of working with stuff on the shelf. And it was really cool. I wish I'd have taken some pictures of it, because what my electrician did was, when we decided to go that height all the way around the building, he brought in a floor laser sitting on a tripod, and he put it right in the middle of the floor, and that thing shot a laser level beam all the way around the building. So all I had to do was, if the beam was like right here on the wall on that beam behind me, all I had to do was to come up and put the box, either, I think we put it at the bottom, put the bottom of the box at the bottom of that laser line, and they were level all the way around the building. That's what you get when you deal with a good guy, a guy who knows what he's doing, and we've talked about that. You get what you pay for. Front wall, where I'm at now, which is actually behind the camera, you'll see that the exterior lights were marked with E, one on each side of the RUD, the roll-up door, and then over here, T by the man door, MD, represented one exterior, one bar, and the other bays. This was the plan before we decided that we wanted the exterior lights at the roll-up door to be on the switch. And again, these, you remember me talking about having a little money set aside for things that you want to change as you go, and that was something that we changed along the way. T represented 2 Qs, and I really can't remember what T was supposed to be, but I believe right here I wanted it up here because this is where my ham radio is, and I wanted it to be able to plug in up there. Q1 equals 110 high, and height to be determined. Yep, that was the top one right there. So that was the front wall. Ceiling, you can see here the front of the building, 40 foot, 24 foot deep, and if you look on the far left side, you'll see an F, and that stood for a fan. We YouTube this fan, I'm gonna do something really cool with that fan. I'll show you that in a later video, but I wanted a fan over the bar area. You'll see B and B. B was the bar lights. I don't think you can see those right now, or can you? They're right back here somewhere, or either right here somewhere. I'll show them to you. But light for the bar, we wanted some mood lighting, so I'll show you what those look like here in a little bit. Well, maybe I can't really do it right now. I'll do that down the road when we cover that. D as in David equaled the 110 times 3 dual. These are the ones that have the pull downs for the power cords that have constant supply on them, but each one of these lights on the back end of the building, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one is plugged into an outlet, and the fourth one on back there is on an outlet, and the fourth one's back there on an outlet, and that's so when we flip the switch, all of them come on and the power comes this way. What else is in there? Nothing. All right, so that's what we did there. That is what we put on graph paper. Those are the actual pictures that I sent to the electrician to let him sit down. Remember, we ain't even got a price quote for this yet. This is just what we want to do. So that's the actual pictures that I sent to him. And I would guess that, let me look at my notes here. At this point, we were just trying to come together on a price and see if this fell within our budget. Actually, right there is a picture of the temporary lights. We put them up on January 17th, and you can get an idea of what and how they look. I mean, you can see a little bit of the bar stuff back here now. We just put it up to kind of get a feel for where we wanted it to go at. I mean, you can look right here, if I can do this. Right here is one of the power strips. We have another one up here near the front that you can't see, but they're ran off of the same switch, so when I flip a switch on, those 3 neons come on. These things, I'm telling you, man, you got to plan your work and work your plan here on these things to understand what's going on. And we didn't know if we were going to be able to afford this. Here's a little close-up of those lights, and again, you see my zip ties up there because we hung them up to put them on zip ties to slide them in and out to see if we were going to need 2 or need 3. Now, I'll tell you one thing about these lights that I really do like is that all 4 of them are LEDs, and they're adjustable. That's why they're not straight. If we go back here to the next page, you can see the 4 lights. You can see a lighted area on the right. You can see a lighted area right here on the wall. You can see a lighted area down on the floor by the blue tape, and then you can see a lighted area over there by the yellow box. Those are the 4 areas that light will concentrate on and light up. And I think after we get that wall done and get the flooring put in and the wall covering that we're going to put on it, like I said, this right here right now is just to keep it off the floor and get an idea of where we want it. And then once, if we end up being satisfied with that, we'll just take a picture of this, move all this out, and then start putting the wood cover up over it. So there you are. So that's where we're at. Just a few more pictures here of the door after I got and the man door after I got the second coat on it. Now we go from here. Next video, we're going to bring you out here and we're going to show you what we did on the first day that the electrician came out to actually put our stuff in. And that's where we're going. Look for that video in a couple of weeks. And I find it amazing that here we are, July 31st, and if memory serves me correctly, it was the end of August, I can't remember the date, that we actually cleared trees where I'm standing to pour the slab, to put this up and get this up. And with everything that's going on, computer issues, supply issues, delays, medical problems, it really took this long to get here, because even though this is July, I want to say that we've, little spoiler alert, we got, I think we got all the electrical work done by the end of February, and it was March that we came out here and started the next step, which was the floor covering. And you haven't seen that yet. It's pretty nice. All right, YouTube, by God, let's get to getting. As always, I appreciate you coming by the shop. Rate, comment, share, ride safe, handle your business, save some money, and cut.